Sonics basketball is a presentation of Full House Sports and Entertainment.
No foul. Russell gets off the three. Won't go. Game is over. The Sonics are on their way to Chicago. Here they come with a 90-86 win over the Jazz in the 7th game of the Western Conference Finals. The Sonics, after a 17-year absence, are back in the bus, baby, and we're on our way to the Windy City.
Redemption. It had been 17 years since Seattle was represented in the NBA Finals. For players like Hersey Hawkins, Detlef Schrempf, and Nate McMillan, the wait meant a career. For George Karl, the wait seemed an eternity. But that weight is lifted, and the Sonics have been to the mountain. Now they say, this is the year they climb to the summit. Legends of the Sonics past have given away to the stars of today here at Key Arena. Hi, I'm Kevin Calabro and welcome to Tip-Off 96. At this time last year, all we heard about was the disappointments of the previous 2 seasons. Although the mood of camp was upbeat, you'd have to describe it as cautiously optimistic. That's not the case this year. With a couple of new additions, notably Jim McIlvaine and Craig Elo, the Sonics feel that they now have the pieces to make a serious bid at the NBA championship. Today, we're going to take a look back at the excitement of last season and a look ahead to what promises to be a year to remember. We're also going to give you the first opportunity to experience the excitement yourself from your own seats at Key Arena. Coming up in the program, we'll meet the new guys, both ex-Washingtonians. One a Cougar, the other a Bullet. We'll remember the frenzy of the playoffs from the fans' perspective. And we'll talk to a man who may have made a difference in the outcome against Chicago had he only been healthy, Sonic co-captain Nate McMillan. But next, a conversation with a man whose off-season was a little more relaxing this year, the Sonics head man, George Karl. Welcome back to the show. I'm standing in one of the 2 exclusive sports clubs here at Key Arena. These are accessible only to club seat holders and offer first-class amenities that are unavailable anywhere else in the building. There are still a limited number of club seats available, and to find out more about how you can become a Sonics club seat holder, call 283-DUNK right now. From club seats to courtside now, a man who owns the best seat in the house, the head coach of the Supersonics, George Karl. George, what's the biggest difference in this year's team as you see it during the 2 weeks of practice as opposed to the team that played the Chicago Bulls late June?
Well, I think what we've done since Game 4 of last year's championship series is we've regained the confidence that we can be the championship team of this league. And the first 3 games we played kind of hesitant. I didn't think we shot the ball very well. But after Game 4 and Nate came back, we felt we were as good, if not better, than Chicago. So I think this camp, Craig Elo has come in and given us a veteran mentality to regain that. And I think McIlvaine has been a positive. I think everybody right now feels probably that, I think almost everybody feels that Jim McIlvaine is going to be a better player than Irvin. So we sit here on the brink of the season feeling we're a better basketball team. What's that mean? I think that means we got to prove ourselves in the season. But I think inside, with the confidence and the heart and the character of this team, what we gained last year, I think we'll be back on the court this year.
Well, let's break it down a little bit. Let's talk about the qualities of Craig Elo and Jim McIlvaine. What do they bring specifically to the table for this ball club?
Well, I think in Craig Elo, we had another three-point shooter who can back up Nate and give us an insurance policy to an injury in the backcourt. Last year with Nate's injury, I think we saw Gary having to play 45 minutes at point is not his best position. His best position is where he can flip-flop a little bit, play some point, but also play some scoring with a scoring mentality on the court. Elo will give us that. In fact, might give us that the whole time that we play. Probably the starting lineup of Nate, with Gary and Hawk is the only time that, might be the only time that Gary doesn't have a passer on the court with him, like Nate or Elo. And we're hoping to even do more point forward stuff with deadlift this year for us.
And McIlvaine gives you, I've heard you already mention a guy that sets a solid screen, maybe better than any player you've had with the Sonics organization. And I've heard the assistant coaches talk about McIlvaine being a good shot blocker with a left or right hand and showing a little more discretion. He's a guy that won't get into foul trouble, and so he can play more minutes for you.
Well, I think the big thing is the first two things of setting picks. And what happens is when you get a guy setting picks, it's a little bit of a contagious fundamental. And it seems like more guys set better picks. And I think that's going to be a positive for us. I think it'll get us better post position. I think there'll be some things we can use Sean with McIlvaine together with. And then the shot blocking, I don't even think it's the shot blocking as much as his size presence. We're bigger. We're more physical because of that size. If we had a weakness last year, it was against teams that rebounded the ball against us. One of our weaknesses was when teams really pounded the boards and our focus would drift a little bit. In the Chicago series, the 2 games that Rodman gets 20 rebounds, they win those games because of Dennis Rodman, not because of Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen.
Sean Kemp, just outstanding in the playoffs last year, particularly against the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls very simply didn't have an answer for him.
Oh, very simple. I thought he was the best player on the basketball court with probably 4 of the top 10 players in the game of basketball on the court. You had Pippen and Michael, and you had, of course, we had Sean and Gary. And I thought Sean was the best of them all. And there's not much you can say. He did everything for us. He shot the ball. He posted for us. He rebounded for us. Was probably the only guy on our team that rebounded for us the whole series. And then his running and his athleticism was fantastic. I think he came out. There's probably been 2 or 3 steps in Sean's career to move up that ladder to stardom, but I think the finals was his statement to the rest of the league that he wants to be the guy in this league, and I think he has a great chance of being that guy. I think he now has the chance to become the greatest power forward ever to play the game of basketball.
I know you've talked before about the bench being the strength of the Sonic Ball Club. This year, you've got to really be looking forward to all the combinations and the matchups that you can present to the opposing coaches based on the personnel that's sitting over there on the bench. The
bench could be the strength of this basketball team. It always has been a big plus. I always think for us to have a successful season, we got to have great years out of McMillan and Perkins. That's kind of always been my read. When those guys have special years and contribute in a special way, we usually have a special season. When they kind of just have good years, we kind of have to figure some other things out. And I think Craig Elo gives us an insurance policy back there with a veteran mentality, a lot different than we've ever had before. That guy has always been Vinny Askew or David Wingate. We're bringing a guy in who played 6-7 years of his career as a starter in the NBA. And he knows the game and understands his role. And now the one thing we joked about in training camp more than anything else is I have a problem on this team because at the end of the game, who are you going to play, Hawk, Elo, or Nate? Last year was pretty simple. We played Nate defensively, Hawk offensively. And I think Hawk's still got to be on the court offensively a lot. But Elo's as good a shooter. Maybe I don't know who the better shooter is in Elo or Hawk. They're both great shooters.
You pretty excited about this season, about this club, and going to war with these guys?
I don't know how it's happened, Kevin, but over the last two years, this team has formed a personality that we like each other. I think we enjoy working with one another, and we compete at a high level. A lot of college coaches have been at our camp, and that's probably the most consistent thing they say, is you guys really compete hard. And I think in the end, as a coach, if I can go to my grave being told that I coach a team that plays hard all the time, I'd probably be doing a successful thing.
When we return, we'll meet the two newest members of the Sonics as Tip-Off 96 continues. There are numerous ways to get into a Sonic game this season. Obviously, to ensure your ability to see any game you want, season tickets are the best way to go. There are still full season seats available, but they're going fast, so call now. If you can't make it to every game, the Sonics are offering 4 different 9-game ticket packages. These packages make great gifts and give package holders preferred priority for the Sonics 1997 playoff drive. If this season is anything like last, you'll definitely want to secure your seat for the 1997 playoffs. Let's take a look back now at some of the playoff frenzy of last season.
The Key Arena right now is one of the best places to play basketball in America, and it's because of you all that it is that way. Thank you.
Sonic! Souvenirs! Yeah! Go Sonics all the way! Let's go Sonics! Let's go Sonics!
The Sonics, baby.
Yeah! Yeah! Carl, it's been 10 seconds. Come on, get with it.
It's time to hype it up!
Of their second run, Kemp with the reverse and lands on Rodman and is enjoying it.
On the course of the playoffs, we really look at the crowds and what the crowds have meant. But believe it or not, we have the best fans in the NBA.
What a great time it was last year at the Key Arena, and you can expect more of the same this year. Two guys that experienced the Key Arena fans from the visitors' end, the south end of the court last season, will now make their home on the north end of the court. Jim McIlvaine took the high road to Seattle while being courted by several NBA clubs, traveling by way of Washington, D.C., while Craig Elo literally hit the road on his way to Seattle, traveling through Atlanta, home of the '96 Summer Games.
Just getting the opportunity to carry the torch was special for me, but I can't describe in words what it felt like. I mean, you just had to experience it. And then to turn around and do that, and to go to the opening ceremonies and watch that, and then come out to Spokane to visit my in-laws and have Seattle call me the next week and tell me that they wanted to offer me a contract. It was a real whirlwind of a ride.
Well, he's just a veteran player that kind of plays a lot like Nate McMillan, does what we want him to do or what the game wants him to do to be successful. Can shoot it, can defend, can play different positions, can pass it, can cut. I think it's very special that we get a player that wants to play for a championship and doesn't want to play for money.
When a team like Seattle came courting me, you know, this is a team that has a wonderful tradition as far as I know of. And, you know, just recently, just being the team that they have been, winning all their games, winning the Pacific Division, and going to the finals last year, when they came a-courting, it was an easy decision to make that, you know, well, as an athlete, you know, that would be the ultimate to play on a team like Seattle.
Shrimp right off his hands. 2-on-1, McFadden to Elo. Great.
There you go.
Craig's been around a long time, so he's a veteran. He knows how to play. He's always in good shape. He can shoot the ball, he can penetrate, he can play defense. So he's a good all-around player, and he really fits in well with us.
I don't think I'll change much as a player. I don't think I can. I'll always go out and play the way I can, and I think that's why Coach Carl was interested in me. I think that's why Wally was interested in signing me, is that they like the way I play. So I think all I have to do is really do what I've done in the past, and that's be very active on the defensive end, be willing to take some shots on the offensive end, and hopefully hit some big threes.
I think I bring a defensive presence, someone that's willing to work hard at their game and improve over time, and someone that tries to make everybody else on the team better.
Shot blocker. We've never had a big body in the middle of the court, and we've always been one of the worst shot blockers in the NBA, shot blocking teams in the NBA. I think that's a big dimension. His size is going to give us more physicalness in the paint. He and Elo will just give us big time improvement.
Basically, I don't care who shoots the ball as long as it goes in and we win games. If I don't get any shots and we win every game, I'll be the happiest guy on earth. They come up, once in a while to film him in his apartment at Marquette or film a little bit of a practice or a little bit of a game. It was just kind of snippets to see how he's progressed since high school and what's going on in his life since high school. No, it wasn't a real world where they sit down and interview the players.
This is the true story. True story.
7 strangers.
Well, Will really wasn't communicating with us on the court today. And so we all had a sit-down meeting in the locker room afterwards and said, we're just going to kick him off. No, it wasn't like that. They had over 300 hours of film, and they couldn't put everything in the movie, so they obviously cut about 297 hours of it.
Coming up next, a look at the graybeard for the Sonics, 10-year veteran Nate McMillan. Welcome back to the show. I'm standing in one of the luxurious suites here at the Key Arena. A lot of people aren't aware that some suites can be rented on a game-by-game basis. If you want to impress your friends for a night, give a call to the Sonics office right now and get your hands on one of these babies for a night. I think you'll be surprised at just how inexpensive it can be. As we've talked about over the course of this program, the Supersonics were just 2 games away from winning the NBA championship last season. And when you talk to the team, to a man, they all say things may have been different with a healthy Nate McMillan. We talked to Nate about the frustrations of watching last season, his health for this year, and what has been an outstanding career for this North Carolina native.
Well, I've never met anyone with your courage and the way you enjoy life.
It's been a real journey for Nate McMillan. In his 10th Sonic season, his team reached the NBA's promised land, the finals.
Seeing us come together and believing in one another and committing and sacrificing ourselves to be the best we can be for the best of the team, and then all of a sudden win the finals. It was just the greatest feeling to finally reach that point, knowing all along that you could be there if you just, you do certain things, and we did them last year and was able to reach the finals.
But that promised land was not the land of milk and honey. An injured back reduced his role to that of an interested spectator in street clothes, watching the Sonics drop the first 3 games to Chicago.
My main thing at that particular time was just to get in uniform and be able to talk to the team, I think the team has a great deal of respect for what I have to say to them, but a lot of times when you are, players just as those guys are, and you're in a suit and they're in uniform and they're working hard, the message that you try and get through to them, they don't always understand. But when you're in the same uniform, they tend to listen to you a little bit more. And I wanted to put on my uniform, sit on the bench, and be a part of the team instead of just being in a nice suit.
And here comes the team captain.
So in Game 4, Nate traded in his nice suit for Sonic home whites.
McMillan very definitely in the house. In the house.
And shoot around, I felt a little better and told George that I would try it. And for the fans to respond the way they did, they appreciated me. So that really gave me some motivation, some adrenaline to probably do a little bit more than I probably could have if I didn't get that standing ovation.
Let's talk about Nate's contribution.
And Nate did more than provide an emotional spark. He brought his message home with examples. His three-pointers and rejuvenated play led the Sonics to victory in Games 4 and 5. But Nate is quick to deflect the praise of his efforts.
Just as I did that, the whole team sacrificed and committed themselves through the year. And we had an even better season than we've ever had here in my 10 years. So it was an opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity. I wished I'd have been more healthier to help out the team. But, things happen for whatever reason. And, that's just the way it worked out.
For Nate and his Sonic mates, this year holds promise and a hope that success will continue for this team. And a big part of that success will be the strength and healing of Nate's back.
Right now, I'm feeling okay. We really don't know where to go in a sense, because I did see a few doctors this year, and no one saw anything that surgery would fix.
Well, we get the healing done.
10 years of NBA action has taken a toll on Nate McMillan's body, but his leadership and ambition will help carry the Sonics anywhere they want to go.
I've always, tried to play the game, tried to teach the game, understand the game. I don't have the ability to do the things Sean Kemp and Gary Payton and some of those other guys do, but I do see different things that they can do to improve themselves, that the team can do to improve themselves. And when I see that, I go to Gary, I go to Sean, I go to Coach Carl, or whoever it may be, and they allow me to voice my opinion. And most, as Hersey said, majority of the time, it's the right decision.
Nate has been the heart and soul for this team now for 10 years, and his continued health will be crucial for the Sonics if they expect to return to the NBA Championship Finals this season. Speaking of finals, that's going to do it for our show. But before we go, we want to remind you to call now to order Sonics tickets for this season. Club seats, suites, full season, and 9-game ticket packages are still available, but they're going fast. Make sure and reserve your spot here at Key Arena while the Sonics are home. And when they're on the road, the Sonics are pleased once again to be working with our broadcast partners, KSTW, Cairo, Prime Sports Northwest, and of course, Sports Radio 950 KJR. It all kicks off on November 1st in a rematch of the Western Conference Finals at Salt Lake City against the Utah Jazz. Then the home opener one night later as the Sonics unveil the Western Conference Championship banner, November 2nd against Portland. Until then, I'm Kevin Calabro. Thanks for joining us. Good night, everybody.